In this video we are going to make a star cookie cutter that's hopefully going to look a little bit like this, and we're going to do this using TinkerCAD. So head on over to tinkercad.com, sign in any way you know how. I've signed in using my school Google account. Then click on to Create New Design. Here we go. Now when it loads we get a work plane that looks something like this. This is far too big, so I'm going to edit the grid and make this 70mm wide and 70mm long. There's also options for inches and bricks, but maybe play around with that later. So update grid. I've made it slightly smaller because that's how big we are going to make the cookie cutter. Now for this you will need a proper mouse, so use one that's got a wheel, and then you can use that to zoom in and zoom out, and you can right mouse click to orbit around. It makes it far easier if you use a proper mouse rather than a trackable input device. So for the star cookie cutter, surprisingly, we are going to need a star. So click and drag. This is our basic shape. Now we're going to create this with precision, so we will also need to use the ruler. So click on the ruler and then click in the bottom left hand corner to position your ruler. Every time you click on this little red circle, it will change the orientation of the ruler. So just make sure it is this way around as shown. Now click onto the star, and then we can position it. So I'm going to change this one to 0 and this one to 0. So it positions it from the bottom left. And then I'm going to want it 70 tall by 70 wide. And for the height, I am going to change this to 3mm. So that's going to be the grabby bit of the cookie cutter, this little bit along the bottom here. Hopefully that was easy enough. The second stage is to duplicate this shape. To do that, you can either press Ctrl D or click on the Duplicate and Repeat button. We've now duplicated it. Yes, we have. Click and drag, and you can see we've got another star. Now, for the height of the cookie cutter, I want it to be 25mm, so I'm going to change this to 25. And I'm going to want this to be slightly smaller, so I'm going to change these two to 64. So that's this one here and this one here. Enter. And for the position, I'm going to want it this one to be 3 and this one to be 3 as well. There we go. All what's missing now is a hole in the middle. So with that star selected, press Ctrl D again, and it's duplicated it, but it's also tried to replicate changes to the height, which I don't want. So I'm going to make it slightly smaller. I'm going to change it to a hole. I'm going to make sure it's 58 by 58, and then I'm going to position it this one to be 6 and this one to be 6 as well. Definitely make sure it's slightly taller than the others. Right, and then we can select everything. Control A will select all, or you can click and drag to select all of the shapes, and then this is the magic bit. We're going to group it together. You ready? Bing! There we go. We have a star cookie cutter. Wow, and if you do that, you will definitely be a star. Now, if you want to 3D print it, you will have to export the model in a format according to your 3D printer. The printers I use .stl format, so you may need to use that one. And don't forget to give it a name. So I'm going to call this Star Cookie Cutter, so we can find this again. And if you need to, you can send it to various places if you need to. So that's how to create a star cookie cutter. Have fun. See if you can create your own cookie cutter.